boys and girls, to Cromwell Valley Park. I'm Ranger Kirk, and we're going to go on a trip that we call Habitat Explorers. Join me in the Barnatorium. Why do we call it a barnatorium? Well, when you look around you, this is an old barn. It's about 150 years old, and they stored many things in the barnatorium. So, Cromwell Valley Park is big. It's 460 acres, so we encourage you to come out and visit us. We're open 7 days a week. It's going to be a little bit of fun. But we're here for Habitat Explorers, which I have right up here. And I guess the question for you boys and girls is what in the heck is a habitat? What's your habitat? Where do you live? Is it an apartment? Do you live in a house? What do you call it? It's your, I'll bet you guessed it already, it's your home. And basically all animals have a habitat that they live in. And there's 4 important parts of a habitat. Right here, look at this. 4 things that animals need. And even we need it too. Can anybody guess what's one thing we all need in order to live? What's that one thing? Hot day, you go into your house and you want to, did you guess it? It's water. Ready to go. What do you think would be the second thing all animals need in order to live? Lunchtime. There's a hint. Food. Somebody said it. Yep. Food and water. It gets harder as we go down with this. What do you think it is? Now, it's kind of a chilly day here at Cromwell Valley Park, but we're in a barn and we're not feeling the wind. So what is the barn providing us with? Suppose it was raining outside. What will we need? Did anybody guess? If you did, it is shelter. And shelter can take many forms, you know? If you're a worm, a rock would be a shelter for you, be part of your habitat. But what's the last thing? So food, water, shelter. What's the last thing that all animals need? What do they need? Bet none of you are going to guess. But try in your classroom. What do you need? What's that 4th thing? All animals. I'll give you a hint. I'm going to draw an aquarium, okay? There's my aquarium. I'm going to draw it. Look at that. Okay. Then, in my aquarium, I'm going to put some dirt. I'm going to put some virtual dirt. There it is. Okay. And then we're going to put a couple of worms. Oh, so this aquarium's only about that big, but they're just happy as clams in there. Okay? Now, suppose, however, instead of worms, I'm going to erase that, and we're going to put something in there. Let's put see if I can draw him. Let's put a bear. We put a bear in there. Look, oh, there's his tail, and he's kind of got his teeth. He's like, oh man, why is that bear angry? What doesn't he have enough of? Living space, you got it. There's not enough space. Living space. And all critters need that. If you're a worm, that aquarium is plenty of room, but if you're a bear, you need hundreds and thousands of acres of land to live on. So those are some key elements of what we're going to be looking at today with Habitat Explorers. Habitat is equal to a home. There are many kinds of habitat homes. 4 things animals need. Water, food, shelter, and living space. Remember the bear. So what kind of habitats do you think we have here on the 460 acres that are part of Cromwell Valley Park? Well, I'll give you a hint. One of the habitats starts with an M. Anybody want to guess what that might be? An M. I'll give you a hint. It's places where there are lots of fields and they get tall. And they have wildflowers and they have grasses and sometimes some bushes. Anybody guess it? All right. A meadow. We're known for our old meadows here at Cromwell Valley. So another one starts with an F. What do you think it might be? I'll give you a hint. It's tall, giant plants that have branches, they have a canopy, lots of leaves. What do you call trees? That's true, but how many trees does it take to make anybody guess it yet? Forest. We have forests here. That's very special habitat. P starts for a place that's wet. Water doesn't really move there. A frog would like to live there. Maybe a duck would like to live there. It may have plants growing in it, often does. What do you think that might be called? Did you guess pond? That's what we have. So we have meadows, we have forests, we have ponds. R. Well, Cromwell Valley stretches from almost up in Towson all the way till you hit the Gunpowder. This is a body of water that's moving all the time, kind of big. You could sail a canoe down. River. Somebody got it. Yeah, we touched the river. And then right here is the last one, is an S. And it stands for a place where the water is moving, but it's a lot smaller. It's a lot smaller. It's a place you might see minnows, you might see bass. Well, you might see bass. I did actually catch one once. What do you think it might be? The water's moving. It's smaller than a river. Stream. There we go. Those are our main habitats that we have here at Cromwell Valley Park. So if you are curious, are there any animals that make habitats? There are. Underneath this blanket right here, let's see who it might be. Anybody know the largest rodent in North America? He's got chewing teeth. Chewing teeth. He's not live. This is what we call a mounted specimen. And he has a big tail. And he has webbed feet. He's a mammal, which means he has hair and he's warm-blooded. And he creates habitats. It is did you guess it? It's not a nutria. It's not a muskrat. It's a beaver. That's what he is. Here's a question for you. Do beavers eat wood? What do they eat? Well, they chew wood. Look, that's been chewed by a beaver. But they don't eat wood because they're not termites. But if you look on a piece of wood that a beaver has gotten a hold of, you'll actually see little tooth marks on there because what the beaver's eating is the bark of the tree. But they eat a lot of other things. They have strong digging claws, and they dig up roots and shoots. They love grasses and leaves, and they're strict vegetarians. Who knows what a vegetarian is? Anybody know? What does a vegetarian eat? Vegetables, plants. If you're a humanitarian, what do you eat? That's a question. So the beaver, though, he creates habitat. What's he build? Kind of a bad-sounding word. A dam. And he uses the wood that he's chewed to build his dam up, and he cements it with mud, and this backs up water. So he's creating a pond for himself to live in, but he also creates a place for other living things to live in as well. I wonder what it might be like to live in a pond. Let's find out. I hear something going on here. One of these animals is called Quacky. Can you guess what she likes to do? Let's see. Well, I'll be doggone. Looky there. That's Quacky. Told you. She even is great. Oh, we hear her buddy. Oh, there's Webster. Let's put Quacky here on the table. Let's get out Webster. Look at that. Which one's bigger? Which one's bigger? What color are his feet? Look at these feet. Let's turn him up so you can see him. It's going to flap. He's got a green head, and I've kind of given it away. So I was going to ask you, who's the girl? Who's the boy? He just likes to nibble at things. Well, this is what we call a mallard duck, a very common bird that flies to and from the park. This guy is a pet of ours, though. He cannot fly. We've given his wings a haircut. But this is a common duck that likes to feed in ponds, and the beaver creates a pond. We're probably going to have mallards come to visit. So this is the boy duck. They're always brighter in coloration than the girl duck. Let's take a look at her. Let's bring her up close so you can see her. Quacking and lives up to her name, and she's a girl. Why do you think she's dull and brown? Anybody want to guess? Anybody wearing camouflage pants at home? She's camouflage. She builds a nest on land, not up in trees, although there are some ducks that live in trees. And then she would lay 8 to 10 eggs, one a day. Eventually, after she gets 8 to 10 eggs, I don't know how she knows and how she counts them out, but then she would sit on her eggs and incubate them. So that's one of the things that ducks do. And there would be many kinds of foods in a pond that a duck can eat. They eat duckweed, and they eat small shrimp-like crustaceans in the water, which we may see a little bit later. Let's put Quacky back in her box. We'll get Webster. Put him in. They'll be happy in there. That just is their temporary house. And let's see some other animals that might like to use the pond. Here's one of them. Anybody know what that is? It's not a meerkat. It's not an otter. An otter would be this big, much bigger. But he's related to otters. He's even related to skunks. You know what a skunk does. So this is a little predator called a mink. And minks love water. I've seen them actually hunting in streams and in rivers before. And their fur is very water repellent. They're a weasel, and they're a member of the weasel family. So that includes otters, that includes long-tailed weasels, that includes skunks. There are many clan members. And this guy eats meat. He's got sharp teeth. What would meat be to a mink? Because I've seen minks in different habitats, not just rivers and streams, but they cross over. That means you might see a mink in a meadow. I've seen them in a forest a number of times. You might see them around a pond. You might see them, and I have, in a river, and you certainly would see them in streams. So they use all these habitats, whereas, the ducks are going to prefer the pond or a river. Look at this. Anybody know what that guy is? He's got stripes. He's a rodent, and he lives in the forest. Did anybody guess a chipmunk? That's what he is. Guess what this guy would like to eat? Ooh. So, again, if the beaver creates a pond in a wooded area, you might have chipmunks, you might have mink. But if that mink was out during the day in a meadow, he might see this little rodent, which he would like to eat as well. These are all mountain specimens. He's called a meadow vole. That's what he is. And you find this guy out in the tall grasses of the fields and the meadows, which we are going to go out to take a look at and explore. Last but not least, I have an animal of the sky. Can anybody guess what he is? Look at these big eyes. I can't really do a good call of this guy. He looks like he had horns. These aren't, they're just tufts of feathers. He's called the great horned owl. But in his habitat, which is the sky and the forest, when does he come out? Daytime or nighttime? I know you know. He's a nighttime animal. So he's nocturnal. And many of these animals can be both. This guy can come out at night, but I've seen him during the day many times. A daytime animal, like people, called a diurnal animal. He's nocturnal. And the chipmunk is a diurnal animal too. He's out during the day, he sleeps at night, just like you and I. All right, I think now we have to get our equipment and head outside. Are you ready? I am. So, when you look out over this vista right here, kids, what do you see? Look at this beautiful valley, and that's why Cromwell Valley gets its name. You see that hillside over there, and there's a hillside behind us, and the area in between, that's what a valley is. And that's why we're at Cromwell Valley Park. It has beautiful vistas. Welcome to a new habitat, boys and girls. Ranger Kirk here again, and I have some equipment that we are gonna use today. This is a capture net. It's for water. That's why it's got all these nice mesh. This is an insect net. It has a cloth bag to it. So we don't put that in water, but we do scoop up insects with it. We also will need a capture container so that we can take a look at things when we get them. And we even have a tray, really a wash basin, but it's nice and white so that when we put insects in there or any kind of animal, we will get to see them very, very easily. So before we do that though, in this habitat, I just want to point out a couple of things to you. Number one is take a look at the grass around us right here. Look how low it is to the ground. There's actually many different kinds of plants growing in here, but note that it's very, very short. How many animals do you think would like to live out in this short grass? Well, think of the food, water, shelter, and living space we were talking about. There's not a lot of shelter out here. And one of the other things I wanted to mention and didn't in the barnatorium is a place called an ecotone. And that's where two different habitats meet each other. So, as an example, this lawn can be a habitat of sorts. Robins are out here, starlings will come out here, chipping sparrows will come out here, probably even the occasional box turtle. But let's look at the edge right here. In an ecotone, I'm going to get down low, you can come with me, you can see where this habitat touches each other. So you got the grass meeting this meadow habitat, and man, look how thick it is in here. I wonder what kind of animals would like to live in here. There's clover, there's plantain, there's dandelion, there's chicory, there's all kinds of things in here. A good example, I'll show you a plant, come over in here, is one that's kind of a weed. Take a look at it up close. Look at those leaves. Wow. Look at the flower. This thing is called garlic mustard. Now, it is an invasive plant, but it's part of this ecotone, this thicket in here. And it's one of the many kinds of plants that work together to create this habitat. This is a mustard right here. These pods are like little peppers. Like little peppers. If we go back to the garlic mustard, you know what's interesting about it? Tastes like garlic. And it has 4 petals on each of the flowers. So it's an edible plant. I would recommend not eating anything that you just find unless you're with Ranger Kirk. There's something else in here that's pretty cool too. Right, growing right next to me. Hey! It has little bristles on it. And those bristles help this thing to lay on, or here's a new word for you, recline on other plants. And what's really cool, I'll do it to myself, wham! Look how it sticks. That's what those little bristles do. This is a native plant. It has teensy tiny, itsy bitsy flowers right here. Little tiny white ones. But that's not the most identifying characteristic. It's that it clings to other things, and it's called bed straw.
people, believe it or not, a long, long time ago, if they didn't have a mattress, would dry this stuff in large amounts and stuff it into their mattress. And because it clung together, it would sort of hold itself together as a mattress for people. It also has chemicals in it. These plants are like little diluted bottles of chemicals, believe it or not. And people could actually make cheese with this. How about that? That's kind of neat. It's called a rennet. A rennet. That's the chemical in it. And it makes milk curdle up and turn into cheese, which we like to eat. So that's pretty doggone neat, I think. So all these wonderful things are right in this ecotone. There's always a richer habitat right in here. So our next stop is going to be the woods. Are you ready? Come with me. Let's go. Kids, we've entered the woods. How do I know that? Well, look around you. Look at all these trees. And one of my favorites is this guy right here. Look at the size of this thing. Oh my gosh, Ranger can't even get his arms around it. We need Yogi Bear here with me. Take a look at how tall this thing is. This is the kind of tree in our eastern forest that's the tallest. They can get to be close to 200 feet high in the southern Appalachians. We're here in the Maryland Piedmont, so it doesn't get quite that big. But this is a tulip tree. It gets its name from its tulip-like flowers that it has, and it has this huge canopy. All these leaves have opened up. They're like little solar panels just collecting that energy. And a tree like this can be home to a lot of different kinds of things. Good example being, look at this right here. Does anybody know what that is? Or there it is, same one. It's a vine coming up. Look at that. Oop, I touched it, which you shouldn't. It's related to cashews, believe it or not, as a family member. That's poison ivy. Leaves of 3, let them be. Now, they're going to get a lot bigger. They have purple pigment showing now, but pretty soon they're going to turn green and they'll be much larger. And it uses the tulip tree to climb up. Now, people might say, poison ivy is no good. We should get rid of it. No. Do you know that poison ivy, when it gets to be full size, it bears fruit? We can't eat it, but guess what? 7 different species of woodpeckers we have here in Baltimore County like to eat the fruit of the poison ivy. So you just need to learn to identify it and avoid it, and then you won't get it. It has an oil in it that we call urushiol, if I'm pronouncing it right. I think I am. And it gets into our skin and it causes an allergic reaction. You get bumps, it gets itchy, and it can be really bad in some cases if you get a lot of it on you. But it's an important and native plant. So it's pretty cool. So we're on the edge of the woods, and look at this thing touching me. If you were to scratch this bush, you see right there where I scratched it. It has a spicy, lemony odor. And you know what? You could give it a name just from what I just told you. Spicy, it's a bush, spice bush. That's what it is. It was used by Native Americans to make a medicinal tea. It helped ladies quite a bit. But people also used the berries it produces to make a spice. In your kitchen, it's called allspice. So it was a substitute for that. But it's an important stopover plant for many migrating birds. They eat the fruits in the fall, which are bright red, and it's kind of like us eating, it'd be like humans eating olives. If you're a wood thrush about this big and you're eating a spice bush fruit that's that big, that's an important source of nutrition and oil that you would be ingesting for your long flight south, maybe all the way to Costa Rica if you're a wood thrush. So that's another plant that likes to live in the forest in the shade. And it's bright right now because this is early April, and you can see the forest behind me. The leaves are just still opening up here. So this will be in heavy shade in another month. Let's go to the stream. Well, here we are. We're at the edge of the stream. Follow me. It's a small woodland tributary that feeds into our big stream called Mine Bank Run, and it emanates. It's you would call it its headwaters or its upper reaches start way up on top of the ridge here, but then it coalesces. That means it comes together. And the stream water that you see right here, well, it's sort of like the hills are like a sponge. They drink up the rains, and then they release the water in little trickles so that this stream runs year-round over here. Let's put a little water in here. And we'll go look around this small pool. We're actually near a concrete dam that was built a long time ago, almost 100 years ago. And this place used to be a big pool of water, but now it's all filled with the gravels from the hillsides here. Let's go over here. We saw a couple of froggies jump in here earlier, but there are many kinds of amphibians, which means living two lives. And if you look right here, I'm going to uncover it. I can tell a special amphibian is here. I'm going to put some in my hand. It looks like spaghetti in the water. If you look, you'll see little baby tadpoles getting ready to come out of strands of eggs. So we know we have toad eggs, probably from an American toad who came here and they laid their eggs in the water. And toad eggs look different from frog eggs in that they are in long strands, and frog eggs are in clumps. Think of like grapes, piles of grapes. And here's even more of it. Look at it right here. Look at them all. And look, these are little hatched out, there's little black dots. Those are little tiny toad tadpoles. They're sitting still. Those water's pretty doggone chilly. Last night, some water froze in the area, so they're not moving too much. But they're all sitting there, and they're going to munch on the algae that you can see and other debris in this mucky bottom, and they'll grow into little toadlets. That's pretty doggone neat, isn't it? One of the things you can discover when you come here. Let's go upstream and see what we can find under rocks. That's always fun. Here we go. Okay, one way I like to do this, if you have a collection net, you can sit right here in these little riffles. What's a riffle? A riffle is where the water is riffling around these rocks. And then you take your boots or your shoes, I guess boots in this temperature, and you just knock the rocks around a little bit. And anybody who might be living underneath of these things will get swept, or can get swept into your net. You gotta pick it up. Well, I'll be doggone. Look who was underneath the rock. Anybody know what that is? He's related to our friend the blue crab. You find these guys, he's a baby. He's a crayfish. Look at that. We call him a decapod. Who in the science class here knows what deca means? 10. He's got 10 legs. He's a decapod. He can get to be a couple of inches long. Many things like to eat him. So he has to stay hidden under rocks, especially when he's that little. Those little claws are not going to save him. So, and what does he eat? Well, he eats other things smaller than him that he can get a hold of that might be under those rocks. For example, let's put him over in our capture box right here. And we can see, here, I put him in. There he is. But look at the many other kinds of animals that live under the rocks. If you have 3 tails, like this critter, look at him go. He's a mayfly. We call him a invertebrate. We are vertebrates because we have backbones, but if you don't have a backbone, you're an invertebrate. So that's what these guys are. And they get like, oh, our crayfish just walked near a caddisfly. That's this guy right here. And what does a caddisfly do? Well, he builds little rock houses like this, right here. Put my hand in here, and I'll bring it up. And see this? These are all glued together with his silk that he produces. And that allows him to live kind of like in a rock tent attached to the big rocks underneath. They're pretty cool animals. And these are eaten by trout and other small fish if they can get them. So here's another mayfly. If I turn this around, you will see they don't all have 3 tails. This guy right here. Here we go. Let's get him. This guy needs the 3 C's. You might say, well, Ranger Kirk, what's the 3 C's? I can't even catch this guy. There he is. What are the 3 C's? The 3 C's are clear, clean, and cold water. And this guy's called a stonefly. Where do you think he likes to live? He's called a stonefly. That's right. He lives under stones in the stream. And he gets his oxygen out of the water, absorbs right through his his outside skeleton. He's also brown on top. Let's see if he's pale on the bottom. I think he is. See that? That's called counter shading. And so he's hard for animals to find. Look at that. There he is. Look at that. Oh, there he is. Hold on to me. So he needs the best of everything. The mayfly, that's these guys right here. Let's see if I can get one in my hand, this big one. And you'll see something. Look how he breathes. Look at this. Look at his gills. See his gills flutter in there? So he's different than the stonefly. Stonefly needs the best water to live in, and mayflies do need good water too. But the stonefly needs the best because he doesn't have gills like that. This guy has gills. Look at him go. Let's put him back in. And so these rocks are habitats for many of these animals. Here's a good example. I turned this rock over earlier. Look at that. Look at all the animal life. You may say, I don't see any animals. Well, this is all glued together with silk by caddis. Look at that. They built all these rock houses. They hide in there. So if we tore this apart, which would not be very nice, we would probably see caddisfly in there. They're probably getting ready to change and become adults, and they look completely different as adults. Maybe we can dub that in and see an adult caddisfly. Look at that. So that's all glue. And so caddisfly build these nets underwater, and anything getting swept downstream, they catch in the net and they eat. And often it's, little tiny bits of plants, little other bits of things we call detritus, which is basically partially broken down plant animal matter. And they catch it in their web, they eat it, and they spin a new web. The other guys kind of scrape stuff off the rocks and eat their detritus that way. And the crayfish, with his claws, he can get a hold of things. Like he might like to grab one of a smaller caddisfly and get in my belly. So these are things you can do. You're looking for in a stream. You turn the rocks over and you look and see who's under there. It's all part of what we would call a food chain. So the algae and the small bits of plants and detritus feed these guys. These guys feed the minnows feed the trout feed you. Pretty neat. Let's let them go. We're going to turn these guys loose. Bye-bye. They'll find rocks. Let's go to another habitat. Let's go to one where the water isn't moving too much. I wonder what
Well, boys and girls, we went from the stream to a new habitat. And that habitat, I gave you a hint, the water doesn't move, or at least not too much. And it's called a pond. And we're here with Ranger Laura. She's got a capture container. And I want to also tell you that this is it's a man-made habitat. Remember the 4 things they need? Food, water, shelter, and living space? Well, a pond has a lot of different features to it. And you can create one. I did as a kid with my dad in my backyard in Parkville a long time ago. So we're going to dip in here. But Ranger Laura's going to get us some water. There we go. Great. And then whatever we catch, we can put in there. So let's go find it. Do some dipping. First off, is there any food in there? Well, look at this. I'll put on the rock. All that algae, my shadow's in the way. Holy oatmeal, look at all the tadpoles that are in here. So they're living amongst all these things here. Maybe Ranger Laura can help me pick them up because my fingers are too big. I can't get them. Pop them in here. I'll let you do it. I want to dip some more. Let's see if we can catch some other things too. Holy oatmeal. Look at that. Take the big guys out. There we go. Look at him squirming. Probably a bullfrog, although he could be a green frog tadpole. They're very hard to tell apart at this stage of their lives. But these other guys, these small ones, are probably wood frog. That's just too many animals to put in there. Let's put them in. But look at all the features of habitat that are in here that animals can hide in. We have irises. We have lily pads. They can hide underneath and on top of. We have more iris over here. And then we've got, think of the common pickerelweed. So it looks like it got dipped a little bit by Jack Frost. Let's dip again. Let's see what we can find over here. Holy smokes. Laura, take out those big guys. Things you can discover in a pond. And then, here, let's hold this up so we can look at these animals inside. Now, tadpoles, or pollywogs, they're going to grow, and pretty soon, as the weather gets warmer, it's going to get kind of itchy on one side, and boom, out will pop a leg. It'll get itchy on the other side, another leg will pop out. Pretty soon they'll have 4 legs. Right now they have gills underneath their skin. Or call it their cheek on their face. Right. And we can't see them because they're covered. But as they grow legs, they're going to start to develop lungs like you and I. And they will have to climb out and hide on these rocks. And they do. There's a lot of froggies in here during the summertime. Goodness. All right, so look at this glob of jelly that came out of the pond. Isn't that something? Unlike the toad eggs that we saw at the stream habitat, in this case, a frog laid those eggs. And they're more like a clump of grapes. Is that neat? So we pulled them out. We're going to dump them back into the pond. We'll do that. And all the tadpoles, our Ranger Laura put that in, and all our friends in there, look at all those tadpoles. We're going to put them back where they belong. Right? That makes sense. You want to put the animals that belong in that habitat in there. You wouldn't find a cat swimming in the ocean, would you? Or a goldfish up in an oak tree. So tadpoles go in the pond. Let's go to another habitat. Well, boys and girls, we have made it to Cromwell Valley Park's wetland. What is a wetland? Well,
It is a place where plants and animals are adapted to living in very wet conditions. In our case here, you can see behind me some of the skunk cabbage, which loves to live in a wetland. And we also have many other plants around us that tell us that we're in a wetland. Wetlands are important because they act like a giant sponge, and they soak up extra water and then they release it slowly. They also act like a big filter, which is a really important thing in nature because it keeps the water clean and clear. So, as an example, here's a plant just below me that looks like, look at that thing. Isn't that weird or what? Look, it looks like a horse's tail. And so that is called horsetail. It is a very primitive plant, or its Latin name is Equisetum if you want to get fancy. But it reminded people of a horse's tail, and that's where it gets its name. Another name for it is scouring rush, because 200 and some years ago, people could scrub their pots and pans with it, because it's a plant that puts essentially sand up and down its stem, or silicon dioxide, which is what sand actually is. So that's one of the plants that grows here in a wetland area. And there's a lot of it all around me. Right here is another plant, a water mint. Ah, what is the mint? Well, you know what a mint is, but I can tell you a few other things. It has opposite leaves, it has square stems, and if you crush it, aromatic oils. And you could even, mint tea. How about spearmint gum or mint gum? So that's a plant that likes to grow in wetland areas too. I'm going to get up and walk over to water. Imagine that. Step down in it, and you can see other wetland plants that grow here. Here's a plant that likes to live in the water, and it's called duckweed. Guess what kind of animal eats duckweed? Hint, ducks. They love this stuff. And they love to find the little insects that hide in the roots underneath of the mats of this plant. So it grows in mats here in this water. Look at this pretty plant right here. It's not native to this area, but it's a wetland plant. It's called yellow iris. Isn't that beautiful? And we have a native one. That's a blue iris. There you go. Look at that plant. Isn't that neato torpedo? And oh, looky here. People used to make baskets out of this tree. This is actually a tree. And do you know what that is? It's called willow. You ever heard of the pussy willow? That's the very early catkins or flowers. Look at what a pussy willow looks like now when it's blooming. Doesn't look anything like a pussy willow that you usually see. And what's neat about the willow tree is that it has these flexible branches, and people in many areas of the world made beautiful baskets out of these stems. If you also had a headache, you could scrape up the bark and boil that bark in some water, and guess what you'd have? You would have aspirin, because that's what's in every willow plant. Isn't that neat? That is really a neat thing. I'll step out. Now we're in a special area that we call the Marble Springs. So let's go over here real quick. And it has plants that grow in it too, but this is a special place. This pond is really an upwelling of water. Where does the water come from? Well, it's coming from the rains, ultimately, that soak into our hills in the park that are above the valley. And then that water is very heavy in those hills. And it squeezes out of rocks underground and fills this pool or pond. And if you look, the camera's going to show you, look at those swirlies going on down there. That is awesome. Look at those things. Wow, you know what that is? That is water under pressure. So it's like a hose underground, pushing the water up out
under pressure, and it creates this geyser effect. It's really cool. This is one of the few places in Maryland where you can see something called an artesian well, water under pressure. Look at that. So there's always cold, clean, and clear water coming up in this pool. Isn't that amazing? It's hypnotic to look at it. It's neat. So there are many kinds of plants and many kinds of animals that take advantage of wetlands, and they need them. There's food, water, shelter, and living space. You remember what we talked about in the very beginning before we started. So come to Cromwell Valley Park and you can discover these kind of things on your own. You know, a Habitat Explorer trip doesn't have to be with your local ranger or your teacher. You can do it with your mom and your dad, cousins, your brother, sister, and you can come to this park and discover all the habitat places that we have taken a look at today. So I hope you learned something. I had a load of fun. Come here to Cromwell Valley. We'll see you soon.